You know, it's a status thing in Vermont, right? It's like if you're of some status if you've been seen on Across the Fence. You know.
Good afternoon and welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. First, we want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day from all of us at Across the Fence. As many of our longtime viewers know, Valentine's Day holds a special place in our hearts because it marks our anniversary. Across the Fence first went on the air on February 14th of 1955. And so today we're going to be celebrating by sharing some stories from viewers and contributors past and present. First, we're going to go back to what our program looked like on its debut in 1955. So let's lose the color and bring the sides in a little bit. There we go, that's cozy. And our first guest is a former extension agent from New Hampshire, but don't hold that against him.
Well, I'm John Porter, and I grew up on a dairy farm in Lebanon, New Hampshire. And we were a little bit late getting a TV, but probably the late or to mid-50s we had one. And my father wasn't one that was really a close cooperator with UNH Cooperative Extension in New Hampshire. And so Across the Fence was kind of his link to university research and information. We had a very strict schedule in our family that at noontime the tractor was shut off, the work stopped, and then as I recall, I think Across the Fence came on about 1:15 back then. And in those days, we were seeing some of those legendary Vermont extension folks. I would say one of his favorite ones was Win Way. Win Way was the extension agronomist. And I remember one distinct thing that Win proposed that my father followed up on was something what he called a mud seeding. And then the theory was your seeds would get the jump on the weeds and early start and you'd get a summer crop. So my father said, well, I'm going to do that. So he did it, a complete failure. He had nothing but weeds in mid-July or so. He had to whack them down with a harrow. And after that, whenever wind came on, he sort of mocked a little bit, having his frost-free seedings, but he still respected the other things he talked about.
WCAX TV went from black and white to color around 1965, which is about the time our next guest started to tune into our program.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, and I joined Across the Fence in 2001 after about 18 years with the WCAX News Department, and I stayed with you and Across the Fence for about 20 years. As a kid growing up in elementary and later in high school, it's now the 1970s, and I have friends in 4-H, and that's really my introduction to Across the Fence. My friends were in 4-H, they were on Across the Fence, and I thought that was really cool. And being really honest about it, I was jealous. 4-H kids being on television, that was cool.
That ultimately starts from a place of just loving trees.
Well, if you love trees, as we do here in Vermont, go ahead and check out the Big Tree List. I used to say the program was all about a pencil and a piece of paper because there's always something, it seems to me, about Across the Fence you want to write down. Might be a phone number, might be a website, might be somebody's name. To each generation, whether you grew up in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the 21st century now, the program is relevant in so many ways to the people that watch it. We see our friends and neighbors, and that to me is why I think the program is still successful and still relevant. But as Peter Martin used to say, this is Vermont and we do things differently. And Across the Fence definitely is part of that. It's something that we know you won't find anyplace else, and I'm not sure it would succeed anyplace else. What, again, makes it relevant is that people are talking about things that we can all relate to or that we want to learn about.
The Extension Service of the University of Vermont.
I'm Corinne Cooper, and as a kid, we all watched WCAX Channel 3. Of course, back then there weren't as many options for television stations. Across the Fence was just a regular fixture, and it didn't matter whether I was at home or one of my grandparents' houses. Across the Fence is what was on. one of my grandmothers, it would also be watching her stories, the soap operas, that would also be on.
And now the Guiding Light, created by...
Everybody watched Across the Fence. It's how you knew what was going on.
Across the Fence has the honor of being the longest-running daily farm and home program in the entire...
It's your friends and neighbors, or maybe people that you'll end up meeting because you found out about something going on and you want to get involved. There was a working steer program that Ben did, and it was a really interesting program. It left me having some questions, and oddly enough, I ended up running into the girl at the Tunbridge Fair 4-H scoop shop, and all of a sudden I was like, you were the one on the working steer program, and I was able to ask her the questions that I had. It was just, and she was just so pleased that I actually recognized her. It was a thrill for me, and I mean, she's a kid in school.
Good boys. Leaf.
She was brave enough to be on front of the cameras and knew her stuff so well. Nice stuff.
Hi, I'm Stu McGowan. I was the on-location video guy back in the mid-'80s for Across the Fence.
Hi, I'm Stu McGowan, and I'm Luke McDowell.
And that was right when being able to do remote video actually happened. Meaning, before it all had to be done in the studio. There was nothing remote. And we could go and interview farmers, we could interview people in their own houses. I was the guy who just went out with Lynn Jarvis and taped things in the field, like the Voice on Pasture system, which is great to talk about, but it's even better to see on location with the guy who's doing it. Lynn really wanted to do a series called People and Places. And his idea was, we've got 252 towns in all of Vermont, little teeny towns, and he wanted to go there for 24 hours and videotape whatever was happening in the town. When we were doing People and Places, we went all over the state. We didn't focus on Chittenden County and up north, we went everywhere. We went to Bennington, we went to Brattleboro, we went to Worcester, I mean, we went everywhere. I've lived overseas, I've traveled overseas, and I had a choice. Live wherever I want. Across the Fence and People and Places is the reason I'm still here, and I would not choose anywhere else in the world to live but here. We're sitting right here because of Across the Fence.
It's been a pleasure. You too.
By conservative estimation, there have been over 17,000 episodes of Across the Fence. From then until now, this program remains a collaboration between WCAX-TV and UVM Extension. We have a photo of our first episode with the original host, Lloyd Williams, and our first guest, Joseph E. Kerrigan, who was the dean of what was then known as the College of Agriculture and Home Economics. Our thanks to Bob Blanchard for that photo. Bring back the barn doors is what I say. And while we're at it, let's return to what our program looks like today in high definition. As we visit with our last two guests, familiar faces on Across the Fence.
Hi, I'm Heather Darby, and I am an agronomist and soil specialist with the University of Vermont Extension. And the first time I remember watching Across the Fence, I was a student at Alberg Elementary, and I wasn't feeling very good that morning, and the school nurse sent me home. And one of the best parts about staying at home, it wasn't watching Across the Fence, it was actually watching the Flintstones that came on after Across the Fence. Across the Fence was always on in our house at noontime. At least for me, being raised on a farm, my dad was always in the house at around noontime to watch lunch, and he enjoyed watching Across the Fence.
The Extension Service
and so it was always sort of in the background as a child. So you knew what Across the Fence was
Across the Fence.
When I first started my job at the University of Vermont Extension, I remember sitting down with the director at the time, and somewhere in the middle of it he said, "And you will be required to be on Across the Fence." As soon as he said it, I was, yes, I can't believe it. I'm gonna be on Across the Fence.
Because I think that we all believe that we could do it. I think
it's a big deal in Vermont. It was a big deal for me. Having Across the Fence is not just a way to be able to get a project out to the agricultural community, but a way to get a project out to the entire community of Vermont. So I think it's the ultimate outreach for someone in UVM Extension, because it hits so many important audiences.
Hi, my name is Roy Beckford, and I'm Associate Dean in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences and Director of Extension. And I've been here since May of 2021. And the first time I watched Across the Fence was when I was preparing myself for the interview process to come to UVM. I was just bowled over by the knowledge, by the history, by everything that was documented that I needed to know. The thing about Across the Fence is that what it does is that it brings the people who are doing the actual work directly in front of the people who are the beneficiaries of the work. Remember, a land-grant university isn't just about traditional students with a backpack and books going to classes. The whole idea and intent of the land grant was that it would serve the populace, the people out there who are working and doing things in their daily lives. All of that is really what Across the Fence does, and how it interfaces and interlocks the researcher, the extensionist, and the beneficiaries, who are the farmers, foresters, fishers, all of those people together.
That about takes care of our 70th anniversary program. Our thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX, who makes our program possible every single day. And before we say goodbye, a special thanks to you, our viewers at home. We couldn't have done this without your love and support, and we appreciate it. We'll be back here on Monday, as an old host used to say, after the noontime news and weather. I'm Jolie Whitney. This is Across the Fence. Have a good one.